So, as you all know, Vaibhav is All India Rank 2 in January 2021 attempt in CA final. He's currently working with EY as an executive. Okay, so about his academic background, guys, in class 10th CBSE board, he topped the country with 99.6%. Class 12th HSC board topped the state with 96%. In graduation, he topped the in CA-CPT, he scored 185 out of 200. In CA-IPCC, again, he cleared first attempt both the groups. He's currently pursuing MCOM final year. He cleared both papers of FRM and GARAP USA. Okay. And he has also cleared CFA level 1 from USA. And again, his work experience of 3.5 years at EY in assurance, financial services sector, predominantly in mutual fund industry. So to tell you, he has done his articleship from EY, and even while pursuing his articleship from a big four, that too, he managed to get ordinary rank. And about his, yes, he sing well. So we can request him to sing a song little bit for us today. And he likes to read books, especially fiction, adventure, thriller, suspense novels. And he's invests in stock markets regularly. And he occasionally works with an NGO called Raising a Mathematician. And he's also interested in learning different languages. I'm like, wow. Just give him a quick round of applause.
Thank you.
We have a privilege of having Vaibhav here, gifted with so many talents, and topper across his academics. So without further delay, I request Vaibhav to please take over and oblige us with his important learnings.
Thank you for such a kind introduction, Ayushi. So I want to know one thing in today's audience, who are there in majority, foundation or inter or final, or is it a mix?
Okay, so CA final students, can you please raise your hand here? CA final, please raise your hands. Okay, so we have Nidhi, Ali. Uh, who else? Okay, so I think we have majority from Inter. Inter students, can you please raise your hand? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, 4, 5. Okay,
Okay, okay.
so I
And
think we have majority from Inter, few students from final, and just couple of them from C Foundation.
okay, just a couple of them from foundation. Okay, so since we have all here, I will start with foundation and then we will gradually move on through all the levels. And one more thing, what I wanted to know is which language are you comfortable with, English or Hindi or a mix? Like I will speak that way.
Okay, is there anyone who cannot understand Hindi? Otherwise, we'll forward with English. Okay.
Okay, okay. Then I think I will go with English itself, since there are
Yeah.
people who won't understand. So basically, beginning with CA Foundation. CA Foundation comes immediately after your 12th. So now in CA Foundation accounts, so at my time there was CPT, it was 100% MCQ, but now you have accounts as a written paper. Mathematics and economics are still MCQ, and your business what is it called, business studies, there's a subject called commercial knowledge and business studies, that's also MCQ, but you have law, which is a theory subject once again. So coming from your 12th class to CA Foundation, law is going to be a new subject for you, and business and commercial knowledge, mathematics, statistics, and accounts, these are subjects which you would have already seen in 11th and 12th. I'm assuming that you took commerce in 11th and 12th. If you have taken science subjects and you're shifting to CA Foundation, then everything is going to be new for you except for the mathematics part. So in that case, if you are a science student moving to CA Foundation, then you will have to put in lots of efforts for understanding the concepts of economics and accountancy. But if you have already done accountancy and business studies and economics in 11th and 12th, particularly if you are from a Maharashtra board or if you are from CBSE board, then I'm aware of these two boards. The syllabus and other states would also have a similar syllabus, I assume. So in that case, the CA Foundation should not be very difficult to understand or grasp. The main challenge will be to understand the exam pattern of ICAI, to understand what type of questions they ask, and to develop a proper writing speed. Because the papers of ICAI aren't as small as your board exam papers or 11th standard papers. they will be quite lengthy. So what questions you could get in your 11th and 12th for 16 marks or 20 marks, in CA Foundation, they could come for just 10 marks or for maybe 12 marks. So the papers are going to be a bit lengthier. So you will have to develop better writing practice. So coming to the accountancy part, you have the same topics which are there in your 11th and 12th: bills of exchange, then journal entries, then your cash book, subsidiary ledgers, and all these topics. And you will also be learning some additional topics like consignment, sale or approval basis. And you will also be starting with the basics of Companies Act and company accounts when you're preparing the balance sheet P&L of a company. So Companies Act gives some compulsory mandatory rules and formats. So you will have a basic introduction to that, a basic introduction of accounting standards, but nothing much in detail at CA Foundation level. So just reading the institute module should give a great amount of confidence. For me at CPT, it was 100% reading the module for all subjects other than law. For law, I relied on my class notes because I found those to be better. But for other subjects, that is mathematics, economics, and for accounts, it was the institute's module for the entire preparation, and lots of practice in MCQs. For me, it was only MCQs, but you would also have subjective, so you should practice subjective as well. Then accounts, you have to do a lot of written practice, and when you're writing your paper, don't focus on decorating your solution like you used to do in 11th and 12th. Even if you don't draw lines but you write it neatly, it is okay. Even if you don't write full forms ever, if you use short forms like account ke liye, if you are writing A/C, that is okay. There's no issue with that. Your solution has to be accurate. These decoration things can be done later on if you have time. So this mental shift has to take place. In CA papers, your focus should be on solving 100% of the paper and solving it correctly. The decoration thing, even if you don't do it, you're not going to lose many marks. Maybe you will lose 1 or 2 marks. More than that, you're not going to lose because of decoration nahi kiya, or if you are not putting in proper lines, you're not going to lose marks for that. Then coming to the maths and stats part, maths and stats, the main issue which students might face is in the speed of solving the questions. Even though you have a calculator, you need to develop speed in typing in the calculator as well. And you need to have practice to ensure that you don't type in wrong numbers in the calculator. So out of tension and stress, it might happen that you see something in the question paper, you see 89 in the question paper and you type 98 in the calculator. It is very much possible that this happens, silly mistakes. So to avoid that, you need to practice a lot. You should also learn some shortcuts on your calculator, like how to calculate the cube root, how to calculate the fifth root or seventh root. You may have to use it when you're solving the paper. So using that, then even for logarithms and anti-logarithms, there are shortcuts which you can use in the calculator. You just need to search it on YouTube. There will be 2 or 3 minute videos which show you these shortcuts, and these can come in very useful. Then for preparation of mathematics and stats part, you should also have a list of all the formulae which you require for solving. And when it comes to the mathematics part, see, in foundation, there is a lot of mathematics, but coming to inter and final, mathematics will be restricted to calculation, basic arithmetic. You should know how to add, subtract, multiply, divide. Thoda indices you should know, logarithms you should know, and factorial and permutation combination. These topics are enough. Coming to the future level, so the topics like derivatives, integration, which are there in, and maybe even trigonometry is there, I'm not sure. But if these topics are there in mathematics, then they are limited to foundation only. So study those topics from exam point of view only. But the other topics like logarithms, indices, these topics, you should study it in detail and you should try to remember it because it is going to be useful in future also. Coming to the statistics part, the statistics part is really very relevant. All the topics of statistics are very important. You will again see those topics in CA final. In CA final, you will have the statistics topics in great detail in one of the chapters of financial management. And if you also further decide to pursue some course like CFA or FRM in future, then in that case also statistics is very important and all those topics get repeated. The topics like correlation, regression, averages, central tendencies, then also time series, index numbers, these all topics get repeated. So you should be thorough with these topics, and by being thorough, you should also understand these topics. Not like you know the formula, then you're done. You should actually know what an index number is. Apna stock market ka Sensex Nifty, that is an index number. and many people don't know it is an index number. So that kind of teaching, you should join some classes where they teach you how the concepts of stats are being applied in real life as well. So there are very few classes which do that. You should try and find those professors. That would help you. Then coming to the economics part, one more thing in maths and stats part, you need to develop your calculation speed because there will be many questions and time will be less. So you need to develop speed. That's the only thing in maths. Otherwise, majority of it is going to be formula based, and you can easily crack maths if you know the formulae and if you have a good speed of calculation. So that's not going to be difficult. Only speed is the challenge. Then coming to the economics part, in economics, when I had done, we had microeconomics as well as macroeconomics at foundation. But currently we have only microeconomics at foundation level. We don't have the topics of macroeconomics. So the microeconomics part, you should refer to your 12th standard notes also if your basics are not clear, because the same things, law of demand, law of supply, diminishing marginal utility, these topics we study in 12th also, in 11th and 12th. The same gets repeated here, only that it's a bit more detailed and a bit more structured. You will have proper head points, so the proper assumptions and exceptions will be given here. Even some better diagrams will be given. So economics is going to be basically like a revision, and there will be very few new topics like theory of production and cost is going to be new, and market structure is going to be new. And these topics you can understand only if you understand law of demand and law of supply thoroughly, because market structures is an interaction between demand and supply. So you need to understand that first, and then you need to be very thorough with understanding of graphs. Lots of graphs and charts are used in economics. So you should be able to read and understand what this graph wants to say. So that one thing is important, which you need to do in economics. Then coming to the subject of business studies. Business studies is basically commerce, like all the how a business is run, management principles. It's a very general topic, and it's also MCQ based, so there's not much of an effort involved. And those who haven't taken English medium for their 10th and 12th, they can also focus on the business communication part to improve their English, because I think in inter and foundation, English medium is only preferred over Hindi medium, so you can develop English at the beginning itself, so you don't face difficulty. Yeah, I think that covers CA foundation. Then moving to the CA inter part. The main challenge in CA inter is that you have only 9 months. If you are giving both groups in the first attempt, then you have 9 months after your CA foundation exam. So ideally, you shouldn't even wait for your CA foundation results before you start preparing for your CA inter. When you give your CA foundation papers, you would have a rough idea whether you're going to clear or whether you're not going to clear. So based on that rough idea, or if you're hoping to clear, then you can start preparing for your CA inter at that time itself. So you would have roughly 9 months. And yeah, for all the 8 subjects, out of which audit is theory, ITSM is theory, law is theory. These are the 3 theory subjects. Rest, and even economics is theory. Rest all the papers are practical papers. So for the theory subjects, I think you can manage by yourself also. Even if you are doing self-study, it is possible to complete these subjects. And for practical subjects, I would recommend that you should join some classes if you are facing any difficulty, because at foundation level and at inter level, there is a huge gap. There is a huge difference between the level of foundation and inter when it comes to accounting, advanced accounting. It's a highly advanced level, because you will also be interacting with banking law, insurance law while preparing accounts and advanced accounts topic. So if you can get some good classes, then that would be really great. But remember, the classes material should not be your base material. The base material is always the institute's module. We should always keep institute's module as the base, and additionally you can refer to classes material for question practice. And if you join classes, then you would also have a discipline that you have to attend classes regularly, you have to do self study regularly. But if you internally you are a very disciplined person and you don't need anyone to run behind you, please study, study, study. And if you are self disciplined, then you can do self study as well. See, the CA syllabus is not very difficult at any of the levels. The only challenge is it is very, very vast. So covering the entire thing and remembering the entire thing is the major challenge. So if you read the books, then you can I think in 2 or 3 readings at least you can get an understanding of the concept. So understanding will not be a difficulty. Time and vastness of the syllabus are going to be the major difficulties. So accounting is going to be accounting and advanced accounting are going to be very different from what you learned in CPT or foundation. The base of accountancy, that is passing journal entries, double entry ledger, that is going to remain the same. But you will be also interacting with accounting standards. You will be interacting with what the Companies Act says, what the Banking Act says about the format of financial statements. Our traditional T format balance sheet and P&L will go away. After foundation, you will not see it. You will have the vertical format of the balance sheet, the P&L. You should be very thorough with that format. You can't even skip one word, one line in that format. It has to be 100% accurate. So you have to be very thorough with that. You have to prepare proper notes to accounts when you're solving the questions of preparing final accounts. And yeah, you also have accounting standards. Accounting standards is a very small part in your CA Inter. It's only for 20 marks, 25 marks in both accounting and advanced accounting paper. But don't ignore accounting standards thinking that its weightage is less, because CA final is entirely accounting standards. 100 marks entirely it will come from accounting standards only. So you should focus on accounting standards as well when you're doing CA Inter. And 20 marks is not less. It can give you a great score. It can help you maximize your score. And nowadays in CA Inter, people are scoring like anything. 90 plus in 4 to 5 subjects, people are able to score. The rankers are able to score. And if you are able to do that, then that's a really great achievement. So try to score well in CA Inter. Even the institute is liberally giving marks, so take advantage of that. Then yeah, coming to cost accounting. Cost accounting is a bit of a new subject for you. So when it comes to cost accounting, you should think from the point of view of a business. Like if you yourself are running a business, if you are the owner of the business, then how will you try to minimize the cost without impacting the quality of the product? Cost accounting is majorly going to be numerical for you in CA Inter. You won't be having analysis or giving your opinion on anything in Inter. It will more be like calculate the economic order quantity, calculate the process cost, calculate what should be the price per passenger kilometer. You are going to get calculation based questions. And in cost accounting, the major challenge which you are going to face is you will not know where to start. When you read the question, it's highly possible you will not understand where you should start solving the question. So that is going to be developed by practice only. The more and more questions you solve, the more new questions you see, then only you will be able to understand that whether I should take an unknown variable as X and start, or whether I should draw a table and start. Which format, which working note should I do first? Or do I need to make this working note, or whether the information is available in the question? What is unknown? Is there any ratio or formula from which I can derive that unknown value? All these questions you will understand only through experience. So cost and management accounting, you need to do lots of written practice. Lots of written practice you need to do, even more than accounting. Accounting and advanced accounting to a level, it is fine if you do a little less written practice and if your writing speed is good. But in cost accounting, you need to do a lot of written practice, especially because it's a new subject. Then coming to the FM part, costing and FM were together for me as a one paper. So I'm taking FM first. So the FM part, FM is more of a formula based when it comes to CA Inter. You will have a specific set of ratios which you should know how to calculate. You will have specific cost of capital formulas, and FM is generally very easy at CA Inter level. The data is given in the question. You just need to put in the data in the answer, and you need to use the formula, and you will get the solution. So at CA Inter level in FM, basically what you need to know is what is the capital structure. Capital structure, there is equity, then there is debt, and equity is always more costly than debt. You should have a general understanding of the theory. You won't be required to interpret or give an opinion in FM also. It will be more of calculation based, and a bit of theory also will be there, but that is a minor part. Don't ignore the theory, because if any unknown sum comes in the paper which you don't know how to solve at all, then theory will save you. It will help you to score, and the theory is such that you can score full marks. If you are writing the correct answer, then institute is going to give full marks for theory also. You just need to use the proper keywords when you're writing the theory answers. So that I think covers the FM part. Then moving to the taxation part. taxation is a completely new subject, totally new, and it's not like any other subject which you have studied. Even though you have studied law, tax is also a law. In the end, it's a income tax act and GST act, but it's going to be very different. So basically, when you're studying company law, you're basically studying what the section says, and then the question comes based on the section, and you have to answer as per this section. This happens, and thus this is our conclusion. But when it comes to income tax, you need to understand the section. You need to understand the adjustment which is given in the question, and you also need to do the calculation. So it is a practical plus theory kind of subject. Now your taxation paper is divided into income tax and GST. GST part is going to be pretty easy because it's a new law. There are not many amendments. There are not many case laws. So there will be very less confusion in the paper. Like if they give one sentence, then there will be only one interpretation. You can't think like no, this can also be happening. This can also be happening. You won't have to make assumptions when you're solving your GST part. But when you're solving your income tax part, it happens that there are two case laws. Supreme Court has given two different or opposite judgment in two similar cases. So then you might get confused what we should do in the answer sheet. Then you would have to write your assumption that I'm answering based on this case law. I'm answering based on this assumption. You will have to specify that when you're solving your income tax part. So your income tax part, you need to be thorough with, even you need to be more thorough. GST is new, so the questions also will be a bit easier compared to income tax. In income tax, you need to be more thorough. Income tax, you will also need to give more time because it takes more time to master. There are many limits. There are many thresholds. Like chapter 6 deductions, there are several limits given. 80C limit is there, then 80G, 80 double G. There are several limits. So you need to remember them thoroughly. Even in salaries, when it comes to gratuity, PF, and other retirement benefits, there are several limits and thresholds given. You should not mix them up. And at inter-level, majority they test on profit gains and salary, and a bit on house property. These are the major areas which they focus on. Capital gains, maybe they ask a separate question of 6 to 8 marks, but the major focus is always on profits gains and salaries at inter-level. They generally ask you income computation of an individual or a sole proprietor or maybe a partnership firm. They don't ask you questions on assessment or the income computation of a company or a cooperative society. They don't go to that level at inter. That is also not in the syllabus. So you should mainly focus on understanding the salary part and PGBP part very thoroughly. And house property is, though it is very small and it's not very difficult also. So it shouldn't take much time. Then the capital gains part is a bit lengthy. It's a bit elaborate, and there are several 54 series. There are several deductions, exemptions, and it can get confusing. So you need to you can make a chart. Charts are also readily given by several faculties. You can make a chart and stick it on a wall, and whenever you are passing by or walking by, go through that chart daily basis. That will help you to remember the exemptions, especially in capital gains and especially in chapter 6A, where there are several sections. And coming to the section number part, if you are able to remember the section numbers, then very good. If you are able to remember, then quote them in the exam paper. But if you are doubtful that I am not sure whether it is 80G or 80 double G, if you're getting such doubts, then better not to quote. Don't write a wrong section number. And if you are not able to remember the section number at all, at inter level, it is totally all right if you are not able to remember the section number. But you should remember the provision. It should not happen that you don't know the section number also and the internal content also you are not able to remember. So you should know the content first. First priority is content and then section number. If you are able to remember section numbers, then great. Section numbers can make a difference between a ranker and a non-ranker. If you write a section number, it impresses the examiner greatly if you are able to quote them. So do try and remember section numbers. And also you need to get into the habit of remembering section numbers, because at final, some places you are required to compulsorily quote the section numbers. You can't go at final level saying that I don't remember section numbers at all. You need to know some of the sections at least. So at inter, you can try to remember section numbers of chapter 6A of capital gains. Salary may there are only 3 sections, and it's better not to quote, because which section reference comes from where, you can't be very sure, especially because there are lots of perquisites and lots of rules are also involved. And profits gains from business profession, there are too many sections. At final also, we are not expected to remember each section number. So at inter, generally it is not expected that you know all the section, but depreciation, scientific research, audit and accounts, presumptive income sections, these are some obvious sections which you should remember the numbers. Others it's okay. IFOS is very small. There is it's not even difficult. It is mainly gift taxation and dividend taxation, and you're almost done with IFOS. Rest of it is very basic. Then coming to the clubbing and set off part, clubbing is easy. There are only 3-4 sections, and it's very easy actually. It doesn't take much time, but there are a few case laws when it comes to clubbing, the cross transfer ones, and also related to the, there are some cases related to transfer to daughter-in-law without consideration, or transfer to wife without a consideration. So those things you need to remember. There are some case laws, so you should know the case laws because questions can come on those case laws. And coming to the set off carry forward part, in set off carry forward, the best thing to do is make a table. Each head of income, how many years you can carry forward? Is there any threshold limit till which you can set off? Can you carry forward to the next year, or can you only set off in the current year? Against which head of income you can set off, against which you cannot set off. You can just create a table, and it gets fit in one page itself. In one page, you have summarized the entire set of carry forward chapter. And related, there are some also sections related to set off carry forward in case of amalgamation and demerger. That is not very important at CA inter level at least. And coming to the residential status and scope of total income part, so even that is important at CA inter level, because CA final they generally don't test these topics. At CA inter, they go into detail in this topic. So you need to know those topics thoroughly, especially now the residential status rules have changed. So you should know them thoroughly. So I think I have covered income tax in detail. Just one more part, TDS. TDS also you have to do it in great detail. I'm talking more on income tax because income tax is one of my weak points. So I feel like I should elaborate more on income tax.
Definitely, definitely. Like
Yeah.
tax has been a pain for me as well,
Yeah,
both at inter and final level.
same,
And
same.
especially, I get most of the queries from students asking, how to study taxes. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I managed it somehow. But yes, of
Mhm.
course, the kind of analysis you're presenting, going into details, chapter wise, and like you just took me through my CA inter text syllabus.
Yeah.
इतना अच्छे से शायद मैंने इतना पढ़ा भी नहीं
Mhm.
होगा. So it's really good, very comprehensive suggestions and tips on studying taxes. So guys,
Mhm.
yes, of course, please do take notes, take advantage of it. Okay, as most of the students here are CA inter, and things are same for final also, right? These charts and everything.
Mhm.
So here we are getting good comparison between inter and final also. So guys, even final people, please listen to it carefully.
Yeah. And one more thing, maybe in your families also you have someone who is a CA or who works in taxation roles. So practically what happens in taxation that might be different from what you're studying theoretically. So for now, from academic point of view, focus only on the theory part. Don't come up with doubts like in reality, my brother, my father, they are doing something different and something different is written here. So what should I do in the exam? Don't get into that all. Just focus on what is there in the book and what is theoretically correct and do that. Practically, taxation is very different from what happens in theory. So don't go into the practical aspect when you are studying for your exams. And this is equally applicable for final also. In final, especially students themselves are doing articleship. So they are like, in my firm, I have seen something different. Why are we doing like this in the exam? So many people come with these questions. So you should not mix up your practical and your theory aspect of taxes, especially because in reality we know what happens in taxes. Yeah, so taxation is, I think, fairly done. GST part shouldn't take much time. The topics are very basic and new, and institute is also not going to ask very difficult questions because the act is new. And yeah, there could be difficulties in interpretation. That's why in GST they will not ask anything very complicated. Then which subject have I left out? I think company law.
Audit and law and ITSM.
Okay, so coming to the company law part, company law may you will be basically having introduction to Companies Act, then incorporation procedure. Incorporation is there in foundation as well, but it will be there again in inter. Then you will have a prospectus, issue of share capital, debentures, charges. Then about general meetings and how voting is done in meetings, how shareholders attend meetings, AGM, EGM, all these parts you will be covering at CA Inter level. So at CA Inter, what you should do in law is you should have a proper list of all the penalties, a list of all the section numbers. So that is going to help. Penalties, they may ask in MCQs. So just one more thing, in all the subjects where there are MCQs, ensure that you're covering each and every part of the syllabus in detail. You should have 100% coverage because MCQ can come from anywhere. And MCQ is the most scoring part of the syllabus. Out of 30 marks of MCQs, if you can score more than 25, 26 marks, then there is nothing like that. Because out of the remaining 70, to pass, you only have to score 15, 16 marks. And out of 70, if you have studied well, then you can easily cross 40. You can easily cross 40 in a paper like law or audit. If it is a paper like tax, then you can even cross 50 because it is scoring. But since it is a theory subject, you can easily cross 40. So 40 plus 26, you are at 66. 66 is a good score. It can be even better. At Inter, they are giving even 90 plus now in law. So you can score that much also. So your main focus should be on the MCQ part. And coming to the MCQs, what I would say is whatever case study booklet institute has given, MCQs practice only that much. Don't go for more MCQ practice. What my advice is that you should focus on studying the section, studying the provision. If you understand the provision, then even if they ask you a 8-mark theory question or whether they ask you a 2-mark MCQ, it doesn't matter. You anyway know the section, so you can answer it properly. So how they ask the question, whether they ask it as a theory or whether they ask it as an MCQ, that doesn't matter. So your focus should be on understanding the section and remembering the section rather than solving more and more and more questions in MCQs at least. So yeah, so coming to the law part again. So at law, you already have done law at foundation. So law is not a new subject for you at Inter. So coming to the law part, as I said, you should have a penalties ka list. Then coming to the AGM, EGM part, at the end, you will be learning about general meetings. You should also have a list of matters for which general resolution is to be passed, matters for which special resolution is to be passed. What is an ordinary business? What is a special business? Then there are some cases where you can vote only by postal ballot or you can vote only by physical meeting or video conference. You can't vote by postal ballot or you can vote only by show of hands. So all these cases you should know thoroughly because they can ask MCQs on these parts. Then you should know the time limits also. There are several time limits like within 30 days, within 45 days, within 60 days, within 90 days. So you should know that, especially in the registration of charges part, share capital debentures part. When it comes to bonus and buyback, there are several conditions. 8 to 10 conditions are there. And you also study these conditions in accounting, where you study issue of bonus shares and buyback of shares. So you're doing it double. You're doing it in accounting also, you're doing it in law also. So what I would suggest it is when you're doing accounting, that time only study this part and do it thoroughly. Interlink the topics which are common in all the subjects and study it only once. This will save a lot of your effort and you won't face any confusion like, accounts may I studied this, law may it is seeming contradictory. You won't get into that confusion. You will be able to clarify what is the position in both the subjects at the same time if you're studying both the topics together. This even applies to audit because audit may also you're studying company audit. That is also company law only at the end. So I think while studying law itself, if you can cover company audit, it's hardly 10 sections. So if you can cover at that time itself, then it will go in a flow. You're studying it in a flow, so it will be easier for you to grasp. So yeah, that is the part about company law. About the paper presentation, I will be talking later on separately. Paper presentation tips will be common at foundation, inter and final level. There is not much of a difference. So I will take it later. Then coming to the audit part. In audit, the main challenge is language. There are words like risk of material misstatement, risk assessment procedure, substantive procedure, compliance procedure. So you can't use words like when you're writing a vouching verification answer, especially. Inter may they ask that a lot, vouching verification. So you can't write check this, do that, find this. You can't write such basic language. You should write, even if you're writing the same point now, you may be writing the same thing. Check the articles of association. You should not write that. You should write obtain a copy of the articles of association of the company and verify this clause, verify that clause. You should be more specific when you're writing your answer. You should use words like obtain evidence, obtain corroborative evidence, evaluate, verify. You should not write check this, do this. That's very basic English and examiners don't like that. So you should use a bit polished English when you're writing your audit paper. And you have to use the key terms like material misstatement. You can't write the auditor if the auditor finds a difference, if the auditor finds a discrepancy. You can't write. You have to write if the auditor comes across a material misstatement. You have to use that word. So language is very important, and it will take time to get comfortable with that language. So that will come only by reading. This I'm talking the language wala issue, mainly it is there in standards on auditing. Now, when it comes to standards on auditing, you should practice as many questions as possible, because many a times what mistakes happen is the question asks something else and the student writes something else, because they don't understand what the question is asking. If the question is on what are the factors affecting the nature and extent of audit documentation, then people write audit documentation should be maintained for 7 years. No doubt your point is correct, but that is not asked. You are not going to get marks for writing what you know. You are going to get marks for writing what is asked. So you should write what is asked. If they ask nature and extent of audit documentation, it is the size of the entity, the nature of the material misstatement, the extent of the risk identified. These are the various factors, and this is available in the auditing pronouncements. Actually, it's not even there in the main module of the institute. So I would suggest that for studying standards on auditing, you should get some author's book. At inter level, I had used Surbhi Bansal ma'am's book, and at final level, I used Pankaj Garg sir's book. So I think both books are equally good, but I would suggest Pankaj Garg's book better. That is more better, I felt. So you can go for Pankaj Garg sir's book for the standards on auditing, for both the summary of the standard. He has summarized each standard in 3 to 4 pages and exhaustively covered all the topics which are there in the standard. And also he has given questions behind it. So those questions you can practice. So it covers almost all the past questions which have been asked. So mainly coming to standards, because 35 to 40 marks of the paper is standards only. So you need to be thorough with that. Then company audit is a very small part and it's the most scoring part. It comes for almost 15 to 20 marks. So you should focus on that also. Vouching verification. Okay, vouching verification, popular opinion is that vouching verification you should always attend. You should always attempt in the paper and it helps you score. My opinion is a bit different. Vouching verification, I feel it is not a scoring part. At my time, what I observed is how much ever you write in a vouching verification question of 4 or 5 marks, you are going to get 2 or 3. You are not going to get more than that. But if alternatively you attempt a question of company audit, you may get full marks. If you alternatively attempt a question on standards of auditing, see, in standards of auditing, if you understand the question and if you write the content correctly, you can get full marks also. It's not that standards they don't give full marks. People don't score in standards because they write something else. What is not asked, they write that. That is the reason they don't score in standards. Otherwise, standards is a scoring part. Vouching verification is not very scoring because it's like an open field. If you actually go and do an audit, you could do 100 things in vouching verification. What you write and what is there in the suggested answer need not match. The framing of the suggested answer, the person who is framing, he may have thought from a different angle. You may be thinking from a different angle. Both the angles are correct, but in the end, institute is going to match with the suggested answer only. Even if your point is 100% valid, you are not going to get marks if your answer doesn't match with the suggested answer key. So I feel vouching and verification is not scoring. So in the paper, if you are able to attempt 100 marks without attempting vouching and verification, then that's the best thing. And if you are unable to attempt something, you don't know something, and if you are forced to attempt vouching and verification, then ensure that your language is very good in vouching and verification. Yeah, for audit, a bit of writing practice is enough. More practice you require in interpretation, what the question is asking. If you know that, then you have cracked audit. And coming to the ITSM part, okay. IT pay, I would rather not speak much because my IT was the worst. coming to the so basically in my attempt ITSMA I had scored 61, and out of those 61 marks 45 marks would have come from SM.
Mine is vice versa. Like I got 50 and I'm sure like I got 40 in IT and hardly 5 or 10 in SM. So I'll speak for IT.
Yeah, you speak for IT, I will speak for the SM part. So
Sure.
basically what mistake I made in ITSM, I will tell you that first. My attempt was in May 17, and I had always heard that IT is very difficult, very difficult. So December 16 itself I had completed my IT. I by hearted everything in IT in December itself, and then I went on to the other subjects. And when it came to, and every time I was thinking, I have studied IT, so just one revision will be required and it will get over. And when I came to mid-April and I took IT again, it seemed alien to me. It seemed completely alien. I couldn't remember a word. So it was like I was studying a new subject again. And I panicked at that time because I had kept only 2 days for IT revision, because I thought, IT is already done. So I will require only 2 days. There are only 7 chapters. So it will 5 chapters, sorry, not even 7. We had only 5. So 5 chapters, this is so easily going to get done. And I had planned it that way, that 2 days for IT, and then again I will go back to accounting and audit. I had some other plans. So, and even I had my BCom exams also at the same time. So it was all clashing. So I hardly had any time left for IT in the end. So whatever I did in IT, that was one day before the exam only. So out of the 5 chapters in IT, I sincerely did 2 chapters thoroughly अच्छे से, and third chapter a bit of the selective topics I completed. Rest I depended on SM. So in my attempt, it was not that you have to pass separately in IT and separately in SM. Aggregate, you have to pass, you have to get 40. So I wholly depended on SM. So what my strategy in SM was that now your strategic man. So one more thing. So when I was doing my BCom, I was quite sincere about my BCom also. Like what syllabus was there in BCom, I ensured that I covered it properly. Even if I covered it just 1 week before the exam, I ensured that I understood what I was studying at BCom. And if you look at the strategic management syllabus, there will be a couple of chapters which are going to overlap with your first year BCom syllabus. There's a very strong overlap between those 2 topics, between those 2 or 3 topics. And just because I had given my semester exams exactly before my inter papers, so those topics were still fresh in my mind. So that helped me a bit in strategic management, a couple of chapters. And strategic management is a bit like business studies. How you're going to apply a particular business model, how your business efficiency can improve, how you can improve the quality of the product. So all these topics of strategic management, I found them interesting, and I could practically link them. Like if I could just imagine if I have my own chocolate manufacturing factory, if I have my own textile industry, then in that case, how can I apply this? I could imagine. You don't actually have to visit a factory to understand. You can just imagine na, ki you're manufacturing a chocolate, so there should be a fixed quantity of ingredients which have to be put in. There should be a specific temperature at which it has to be heated. And after that, the quality check has to be done, whether it is a proper product or a defective. Then the wrapper has to be manufactured. On that, all the stamping details, which are to be their expiry date and manufacturing date, everything has to be stamped. And then after that, the wrapper has to be put. So you can just visualize these things, and how to eliminate the defects in these activities. You can just try to imagine, and that will also give you a basic idea. And this, what you're imagining now, you don't have to write that in paper, but it will help you to remember the sequence of steps which you're following, especially in Six Sigma, business process reengineering. These topics, it can help a lot in remembering the steps and the head points. And you can also remember the head points. So you can create some short codes or mnemonics for remembering the head points. So that is going to help you. And in SM, in the module, there are some diagrams given here and there. Diagrams and charts are given for different models. Like Six Sigma, I think in my time in the module, there was a circular diagram or something was given. And there was a question on that. I ensured that I drew that diagram in the answer sheet. So basically for me, what happened, I had a lot of time to write my SM part in the paper, because IT anyway, I didn't know. So out of the 3 hours, I gave almost 1 hour, 45 minutes to SM. So I had a lot of time to write. So I wrote it very nicely. I wrote it very slowly and with good handwriting, with proper underlining, with all the diagrams. If you can draw the diagrams, then it's nothing like that.
So here I would like to add, sometimes not studying something also helps to
Yeah,
present
but
what you have
yeah,
studied better, in the best way, best
yeah,
possible way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I would always suggest that you try to attempt full 100 marks. Don't, matlab, just because you want to draw diagrams and decorate your answer sheet, don't end up writing 60 or 70 marks of your paper. You should write 100 marks of your paper. You should always try to do that. And IT, see, now about IT, I can only say one thing, rest Ayushi is going to say. If you have a good memory, then it's okay if you study 2 months or 3 months back also. But if your memory is poor, then keep 5 days just before the exam, just 7 to 8 days before the exam, and do IT then only, because you're anyway going to forget. This is my only suggestion for IT. Rest Ayushi will take up.
Okay, so guys, there's a common perception that IT is difficult, is not very scoring. But yeah, I would agree SM comparatively is easier because that doesn't come across as a completely unfamiliar or a new subject. It's pretty much on the lines of business studies or whatever we have already studied earlier. And the questions are sometimes generic. You can put your own opinions on it. Whereas IT is very specific. Whatever is there in the textbook, you can write only that, and there is nothing from your end to add up to it, right?
Yes.
That is the reason student they perceive it as difficult, to be honest. But that is what makes it more scoring, like just like in vouching and verification and company audit web website, I would say ki in SM you might get little lesser marks, but if in IT you put all the points, you will score really good marks. And that is the reason which helped me score good marks even after not doing SM. So our case is completely vice versa. So I
Yeah.
tell you, if you have to study IT, first of all, see it as a very scoring subject, and it's very easy. You just need to find a good book, and it is a subject which you can study on by your own. Like I've studied on my own. I used to attend classes, but that didn't help much. Only the flowchart and the chapter number 2, when I was in inter, I still remember, that was related to DBS, okay, database system, and there was some numerical about decimals and megabyte and things like that. So those numericals, just be thorough with that, okay, because those are very scoring. Two chapters out of 7 8, they are numericals. Get a good hold on that, though that will give you a good score. And when it comes to complete theory part, okay, so it's very interesting. And I remember I used to study it along with a friend, okay. So studying subjects like IT with your friend helps a lot, because you that time you don't feel dizzy, you don't get bored, because you keep each other entertained. So sometime I used to read from the book, and half of the times my friend used to read. So first thing is, you find a good book which has a very familiar language. You can just read and you can understand the concept. Second, you find a partner. Okay, I tell it in my EPS session, and many of you would have already have a, since you are majorly from EPS community, you would have a accountability partner. So subjects like IT and ISCA, it's good if you study with a partner, okay, because half of the things they'll explain it to you, half of the thing you explain to them. That doesn't that helps you make it less monotonous, okay. And then like just like Webber said, you can apply some techniques, mnemonics and everything. So guys, many more techniques, like we have looked it in EPS, 7 8 techniques we have looked. And even that point of time, I used to apply all of them. I used to apply ABC, wall poster, story, everything I used to apply, and that made IT a very scoring and interesting subject for me. And just to tell you, even in IT, I was lazy enough to not study it 100% and do only 7 out of 8 chapters at that point of time. So whatever chapters you are studying, again, just make sure ki maybe you study a chapter less, but whatever chapters you are studying, you need to have a good hold on it. Okay, do 2 more revisions of the chapter, instead of taking up one more chapter, because you have just 30 days left. Okay, so even if you have not done a 5 10 mark chapter, then it's fine. If you have done the other chapters very thoroughly, just revise them, so that if a question comes from that chapter, you are able to answer it. Okay, so revision is the key in subjects like IT. So that is from my end.
Yeah. For me, IT may whatever 14 or 15 marks I scored, 8 was from flowchart. I know that.
Yes, completely. And I would tell you, in my attempt, what happened, this ITSM paper got leaked. So instead of 14th of May, it happened on 24th or 25th of May. Like 12 days, it got postponed. एंड वो टाइम आशिकी 2 आया था. सो एज सुन एज वी गेव ऑडिट पेपर एंड वी गॉट टू नो अबाउट द लीकेज ऑफ, हम लोगों ने पार्टी कर लिया एंड वी लाइक कि हो गया इंटर एग्जाम. एंड आई वाज सो लेजी कि इवन ड्यूरिंग दोस 10 days आई डिडंट स्टडी एसएम एट ऑल. लाइक एसएम नहीं पढ़ पाई, और आईटी का भी वो एक चैप्टर जो छोड़ा वो छोड़ ही दिया. लाइक रियली पुअर एट studying a lot. But still everything was manageable. Again, Vaibhav said a good point about referring study material. So guys, that really helps. If you are in inter, make sure in final level you are studying study material. But since you have just 30 days left, many of you are having exam in May. So whatever books you are studying from, keep studying from that. Don't stress about not studying from study material. Okay, even by reading your class notes, you can clear your exams very well. Okay, so this advice is coming from all India rank 2. So it's not like if you are not able to study from study material, you won't be able to clear. You might not be able to score really good marks, but still you will be able to pass your exams decently.
Yeah, I'm telling from my CA final strategy only, because inter mein I didn't have a rank, and I know what mistakes I made at inter. Especially ITSM was a disaster at inter.
But still you managed to get an exemption it. So
Yeah, that's because
guys,
I
welcome
attempted
to disaster
65
में
marks.
exemption है.
Yeah.
That's really good, and I think we covered inter very comprehensively.
Yeah.
Okay, so inter students, please raise your hand. How many of you are here from inter? Okay, many. तो like I think आज तो कुछ बचा ही नहीं होगा स्कोप, किसी सब्जेक्ट में कुछ डाउट होगा ही नहीं. Like we have covered all the subjects.
होगा तो भी you can ask at the end once we are
Yes.
done with final also. So final क्या, are there any students?
What? How many students for CA final here? Ravi is there. Santosh, Nidhi, Bahubali. Okay, we have 4 students from final.
Okay. So for final, final is now my favorite topic because it's a recent thing and सब कुछ याद है. So I remember what is there in final. So for final, coming to FR. So when you're doing revision, so all your attempts are in May 21 or is it later? I won't go into much detail. If it is in May 21, you would have already done your studies, right?
Guys, how many of you are having exams in May 21?
Okay. Nidhi and Bahubali have in May and the other 2 have in November.
Okay, so maybe we can discuss first about, this is one of the most persistent question, since even for November, there is not much time left. Like it's just, let's say 3-4 months after this.
Correct.
So maybe we can discuss on that. What should be their strategy for revision?
In the study leave.
For 30 days study leave, right?
Yeah. So first I will talk about the May 21 part. No, sorry. First I will talk about the November 21, that how you should do for your 3 to 4 months of study leave. And then last month of study leave strategy, I will talk about it in the end. So coming to the study leave strategy, so I will tell what I did. So I was in EY. So in a Big Four, you hardly get time to do self-study after you're done with your articleship and your classes also. So for me, during my articleship, it was fully attending classes regularly without trying to miss any classes, trying to attend them regularly, and that's it. I didn't do much of a self-study. When the classes were going on, I used to just mark all the important points or where I used to make a mistake, or if I felt something was important which the faculty said, I used to note it down. So that was the only thing which I did during my articleship phase. So when my study leave began, first 6 to 7 days, I had a 5-month study leave from December 1 to April 30. That was my May 20 attempt, but eventually it got extended to 1 year and then 1 year, 2 months, and okay, that's a different story. But if I had my 5-month study leave, then what I had actually planned was, for the first 6-7 days, I'm only going to plan what I'm going to study, how I'm going to study, and what is the sequence. So December 1 to December 8, this entire phase went into planning. Every day I took one subject, and in that one subject, what sequence I will study the chapters. That was what I decided first. Especially in subjects like audit, it can be challenging to determine what sequence you should study. Maybe you will start with SEBI LODR, and then you will realize, I should have started with Companies Act first. And then when you are doing, maybe you will start with professional ethics and realize, professional ethics, some clauses are related to Companies Act. So I don't know Companies Act first, then how will I understand this clause of professional ethics? So these type of mix-ups happen in audit. So first you should determine the sequence in which you should study. Even in FR, there are some indices which you can understand only after you have studied others. you can't understand business combination without understanding deferred taxes. So you have to do Ind AS 12 before Ind AS 103. And this you will realize only if you have attended classes or you have done your classes thoroughly. So based on what I understood from my classes, I determined a sequence in which I should study the Ind ASs. After determining this sequence, I started studying. So for me, FR was a strong point, SFM was a strong point, IDT was a strong point. And since FR was a strong point, I took GFRS as my elective. So GFRS is totally like almost FR. You just have to study differences with US GAAP and IFRS. So that was these four were my strong subjects. It's a different thing. I scored highest in some other subject, but these four were my strong subjects. So in these four subjects, I gave comparatively lesser time. So what I learned from my inter was that in inter, I used to study the subjects which I liked more for a lot of time, and subjects which I liked less, I used to keep it, I will study it, it will get done. It's okay if I study less. I didn't want to give more time to it. At final, I did the reverse thing. I gave lesser time for the subjects I liked, and I gave more time to the subjects I did not like so much. So audit was a subject I did not like so much. Like despite my entire articleship being in audit was not one of my favorite subject to study theoretically. Practically I like, but theoretically it's a different thing. Then tax, I like direct tax, but it's too vast and it's overwhelming. It's like you don't know how you will complete, when you will complete, and from where you will complete. It becomes a mess. So that was a challenging subject rather than a subject I didn't like. It was a difficult subject for me. Then coming to law, I do well in law papers. I write well in law. I score well in law, but law is not one of my favorites. So I was a bit lazy about law because I didn't like law at inter. Final me also I didn't like law, but I gave more time to it. And then coming to SCMP, SCMP was a challenge because it was a different subject. At inter, we see costing as a practical subject. At final, costing is no longer a practical subject. At final, costing becomes practical plus theory. It's a mix of what you study in practical plus what you study in strategic management at inter. So that's why strategic management again becomes important at inter, because again you will see Six Sigma, business process reengineering, outsourcing, process innovation, all these concepts which you learn in strategic management at inter, they are going to come in costing at final. You will be learning how to apply these theoretical concepts in practical situations. You will be required to give your opinion, your interpretation. You will be required to write, you will be having case studies. So that's why SCMP was a new subject. That's why I wanted to give more time to the subject. So what I did was I gave 8 to 10 days for FR in my first revision, 6 to 8 days for SFM. Plus additional advantage which I got was I had already completed my FRM, Financial Risk Management course, before my articleship got completed. So SFM ka lot of portion related to derivatives and Forex, I already knew, I was already comfortable with those topics. Like people get confused even in reading the exchange rates at final. Like they read it reverse. Dollar pound ka pound dollar, they will read it. Currency symbols, they may not be familiar. It can happen like that. So I was a bit comfortable with that. So that helped me a lot. I didn't have to give more time for SFM because of this. IDT, just as I said, GST is a new law, so there's not much of a scope for twisting the questions. So IDT also I could complete it in like 8 to 10 days. Then coming to the GFRS part, again, GFRS was FR only basically for me. So whenever I used to study FR, I used to give 1 day for GFRS along with that. And that used to get GFRS done. So 4 subjects I completed in almost like 40 days. Not even 40 days, much lesser than that. In 32 days itself, I was done with 4 subjects. And after these 4 subjects, then came SCMP. SCMP, there were 12 chapters. So 1 chapter a day, 12 days. And along with these 1 chapter a day, I went for 1 allied law on each day with SCMP. See, law and audit were subjects which personally I can't study for 12 to 14 hours a day continuously. I will die of boredom if I have to study that much audit or law continuously. So what I did was I combined it with a practical subject. I took theory part in the morning. So basically I'm more of a night person. I wake up late and I stay up late till 2-3 in the night. So that is what suits me. Something else could suit you, you can follow that. If you like waking up early, then you can do that. So when I wake up in the morning at maybe I wake up at 8, 8:30. I don't wake up earlier than that. So when I start my studies by 9, 9:30, 9:30 to 1:30, the morning 4 hours, morning and afternoon, I give that time to law, allied law. And then allied law, or if I have taken up audit, then audit. Then in the afternoon, I go for practical part, because if I study theory in the afternoon, I will sleep. So I went for practical part in the afternoon. In the evening, I again did practical, and at night, I again sat with revising the theory which I did in the morning. Night was all night 9 to 11 or 10 to 12. That time was for revising what has been done in the entire day. And then 12 to 3 at night, it was for solving questions in writing. So that was how my day looked like when I was doing a practical plus theory combined in a day. So SCMP went on for 12 days. Allied laws got done in 8 days. And the remaining 4 days, I purely did only SCMP and revised all the RTP, MTP past papers and that. So 12 days mein I was done with 30 to 40% of my law and 100% of SCMP. Then after that, I gave 5 days purely for company law. Purely for company law. And I did all the types of questions which are available with me for company law. Then after that, this was 17 days. 17 days, 32 days plus 17, that comes to 49, 50 days. 50 days mein I'm done with 6 subjects. So I'm left with audit and DT. Audit, so audit is even more tougher than law when it comes to trying to remember. So audit may, so there are lots, audit syllabus you can break up into 4 parts: professional ethics, company audit, other topics, and standards on auditing. So professional ethics, I did it in 2 days. Company audit along with SEBI LODR audit of consolidated financial statements. This I could do it in 1 day. So 3 days may these topics I covered. Then standards on auditing and other topics, what I used to do is, so there are 35 standards. So I used to keep 2 standards a day. So 2 standards a day, and it takes 45 minutes to 1 hour for a standard. So 2 hours for audit daily. And this continued for 18 to 20 days. And side by side, I used to revise some other subject. Same for other topics. Other topics of audit, there are like 15, 16 other topics. So 1 topic a day, 3 hours a topic, 3 to 4 hours a topic. And continuously for 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, I used to go on with audit. Otherwise, it's difficult to digest audit for me. I can't do like, I will keep 5 days for audit. Daily, I will complete 4 topics. I can't do that. I will end up forgetting everything. So I did it bit by bit. Piece by piece, I completed my audit and law part. And side by side, I started doing direct tax. Direct tax mein first I focused on international taxation. And then I went on towards profit gains and capital gains, IFOS. Salaries and house property is not really that important at CA final level. So you can even afford to skip those topics. Then clubbing, set off, and chapter 6A were topics which I did at the end. They are not highly tested at CA final level. They don't ask so much from that. Then I went on towards the special rates of tax, then DDT, income distribution tax, then charitable trust taxation, taxation of firm, AOP, BOY, political party, electoral trust, cooperative society, SEZ, tonnage taxation. There are like 15, 20 different types of assessees for which you need to know how the taxation happens at CA final. So I focused on that part because institute asks questions from that a lot, even in MCQ and even in the theory part, especially SEZ, LLP. These topics are frequently tested, even charitable trust and even MAT. So those topics were the ones which I focused on. And then after all this was done, I kept 3 days separately for assessment procedures. Assessment procedure is a purely theoretical part of DT. And for that, it's very difficult to study and understand the linkages between sections. You will be jumping from one section to another like anything in assessment procedures. You won't even realize that which section you entered and from where you're coming out. Aisa ho jayega in assessment procedures. So I went for good video lectures in assessment procedures. I went for this Arish Khan sir's free lectures are available on YouTube. So I think they were the best, and it was very sorted with his lectures. So you just had to, so there are 4 types of assessment. I used to watch the lecture of one type of assessment, read it from the book, then try to remember it, then go to the next. Break it into several parts and study each part one by one. That is going to help you.
So that's a great advice for November students who still have time. You can go to sir's lecture and study from there. In fact, I would say I've studied from Professional Academy, and Arish sir was one of the faculty over there. So
Okay.
yeah, and we used to hear a lot of good feedback about his style of teaching, his way of teaching.
Yeah. Yeah. So I haven't seen how he teaches the other parts of DT. I never watched the other lecture, but assessment procedures, I feel it is unbeatable the way he teaches. Like no one teaches as good as him. And the case laws part in DT, I think case law we get an entire booklet from various authors,
Hmm.
so you can have that. And otherwise, if you feel that writing it would be better, then you can create your own list of case laws. See, there are hundreds of case laws in the case law book, but eventually in the paper only 5 or 6 case laws are going to come maximum. So identify those case laws which you feel are important. And you may have a question, ki, what happens if the paper asks a question on a case law and I don't know the name of that case law? It is okay. If you don't know 1 or 2 case law names, it is okay. You should know the judgment, you should know the logic, and why that decision was taken. In the paper, you can write as per the judgment of the relevant case law passed by the Honorable Supreme Court or passed by the Honorable Bombay High Court. If you know the name of the High Court, then great. Supreme Court to Supreme Court ही होता है. You don't have Bombay Supreme Court or anything like that. So that's easy if it is a Supreme Court judgment. So try to remember the major judgments, especially in capital gains, PGBP, and in assessment procedures. International tax, maybe there are like 2-3 judgments. Vodafone case is one of the major ones. And then you have a couple of judgments in DTAA. If you're done with those judgments, then that's more than enough for international tax. So yeah, for DT, so one more thing for DT, the last day preparation part. So my elective was GFRS. So, and FRK time I had studied GFRS in such detail that I didn't have to touch GFRS before my GFRS elective. So after my costing paper, I had 1.5 days for GFRS that entirely went to DT. After GFRS, I again had 1.5 days for DT that also entirely went to DT. And that's how I ensured that I completed 90% of my DT syllabus. So I didn't have any plan to complete it in 1.5 days. My plan was to complete GFRS early so that I can give GFRS ka time to direct taxation. And the same went for audit also. I couldn't complete audit in 1.5 days. So I ensured that I complete SFM so early that I get at least 50% of the time of SFM to do audit.
Hmm. Correct, correct.
That's how it worked for me.
Yeah, utilizing your strength and managing your
Hmm.
weaknesses.
Yes.
Absolutely. Also, since we are talking about DT, so guys, I'll tell you what helped me. Okay. So I have studied from DT, studied DT from a faculty called Durgesh Singh. I don't know if I've shared this with you. Okay. So Durgesh sir, he's like one of the paper setter or he's on that board and he's very, very experienced. In his attempt, he scored the highest across the country. And I think he scored pretty well. So what he does, okay, at least till my attempt, what he used to do, just before the attempt, just before the exam, he used to share his own ABC analysis. Okay. And guys, I was so poor at DT, even at final level. Like inter I managed somehow, even at final level, I was really poor. I had no chance of passing examination. I was so poor. I had no option. So he had shared us this with us during our classes that he's going to share one ABC analysis, which we have to do. So I watched this ABC analysis after my second paper was done. I think my second paper was audit or costing. I don't remember. Okay. And I followed his ABC analysis and that really helped. So if you are by any chance as clueless and you don't have any strategy of your own, like I didn't have, so I suggest you go for his ABC analysis, watch his videos, follow him on Facebook. And I've been saying this for last 5 years now because I appeared in 2016 and every year somebody asks me, I say, "Kid, just go follow him his page and do as he says in his ABC analysis if you are struggling with DD." So that is also one of the thing you can refer to and that can help you because in my attempt it really helped.
I'm not sure whether Durgesh sir comes with an ABC analysis even now, but he does come up with a test series.
Okay.
And he comes up with a chapter wise test series, I think. He groups the entire international tax part, then all the heads of income part, and he comes up with a test series. And the questions are much more difficult than what comes in the exam. So if you're able to solve those difficult questions and identify those hidden points, and if you're able to even pass that test series, then you're obviously going to be able to solve the final paper. It's comparatively easier compared to the test series. So at least for the students who are in the last month of their preparation, May 21 students, if you can get hold of that test series and if you can go through the questions, then you will get an idea of how well prepared you are for DT.
Yeah, but just check it shouldn't demotivate you as if you don't know
Yeah,
anything.
yeah, even
Cautious
that.
about that. If you have time, then only go for it. Otherwise, I
Yeah,
mean,
otherwise stick to the material which you already have. Don't change any book or anything right now.
perfect. Awesome. I think we have covered CA final also in detail. Is there any subject or chapter left?
Subject IDT. No, I think I covered my preparation strategy. Coming to IDT part also, there are some topics like import export under GST. So these topics are related to Customs Act also. So first you should study Customs Act and then do these topics of GST.
Okay.
You should reverse the order. You shouldn't study GST separate, Customs separate when you're doing these topics like import export and refunds under GST. Because refund is generally given in export and deemed export cases. So yeah, that's the sequence thing. Otherwise, you will mix up. You will not be able to link those concepts, and institute ask questions on those topics. So yeah, IDT may, I think that's it. Rest you can study it in any sequence you want. IDT is pretty sorted, and institute module is so good for IDT. You don't need to refer any book. Only for questions, maybe you should go for some other questionnaire or something. But content-wise, institute module is really, really good for IDT.
Okay.
About other electives, I can't say much because I didn't even follow what happens in other electives. I have only heard that risk management and economic laws may always it is scoring, and baki subjects may it is never scoring. But I didn't experience that. In GFRS, I could score 80, so I didn't experience that. So it depends upon your interest and how well you have prepared. You can score in any elective if you are prepared well, and if the paper is not extremely out of the box, you can score well.
Okay, fantastic. So Vaibhav, that was quite a comprehensive, strategy, subject-wise strategy at all the levels, and that's I feel is brilliant. It's the most comprehensive I've ever heard, and I'm sure it helped all our students from foundation level to inter to CA final. So guys, we have some more time now. And if you have any question for Vaibhav, then please feel free to put it in the chat box and put it very quickly so that we can take up your questions, as many questions as possible, and you get benefited from it. CFM paper. How to?
Costing FM. You mean costing FM, Surya Prakash? Please unmute yourself.
Okay.
Okay, costing and FM. So how to get interest in costing and FM? So first thing is costing. So whenever you're studying a subject, you should think why you're studying that subject, how it is going to help you. So when it comes to FM, so financial management, personally, I find it as a very interesting subject. But financial management, may you're studying the subjects because in future, after you're clearing your CA final, if you want to get into the industry, if you want to go into the role of financial planning or corporate strategy, if you want to be involved in a decision maker, or if you want to go to the level of CFO in any company, or if you want to invest in stock markets, if you want to become a fund manager or a portfolio manager or that kind of role where you're managing lots of money on behalf of others. So for these roles, financial management is the key subject. If you are poor at financial management, then this entire, these all sets of role, they close down for you. The door closes. So financial management is a subject which is very interesting if you are targeting this kind of role in the future. And audit and taxation are traditional roles for a CA. The financial management part, the strategy part, which is generally taken up by MBAs, is a more non-conventional role. It is a newly emerging role. And due to advent of information technology, artificial intelligence, it is highly possible that many functions of audit and taxation may get automated in future. So to keep yourself updated and to keep yourself relevant in the industry, in the market, having a good financial management and costing knowledge is really, really essential. That will help you survive in the market. Because audit and taxation, these are more of compliance part, and businesses try to automate it to reduce the cost. But costing and FM, you will be paid for your brain. So costing and FM is all about how it is in your mind. So that is how I feel the subject is very interesting.
Correct.
And if
And
you want to become an entrepreneur, then costing is surely going to help you.
sure.
Yeah.
No, I was just reminding, as you had already explained when you were mentioning about C Enter, that you have to think like an entrepreneur, like it's your own business and how you will bring down the cost.
Yes.
Okay, and when it comes to subjects like costing and FM, especially when you are studying for a course like CA, so these are practical and this is completely practical also. There might be a gap between a theory subject and it's the way you apply it. But these practical subjects are the way, how it works even in real life. So just put yourself in that shoes and that position, the shoes of the question. Like if it's a company, then you put yourself as a company owner and then you think about it.
Yeah.
This is a very good way to get hold of this subject. This is a way you develop interest in those subjects.
Yeah, just given an example of FM. FMA we study ratio analysis. So whatever ratios we study, some of those ratios are actually disclosed by companies in their annual reports. Current ratio, liquidity ratio, debt interest coverage ratio, they're actually disclosed in the annual reports. And if you actually go to invest in stock markets, whether or not you should purchase a share, while taking this decision also, you will look at the balance sheet of the company. You will check these ratios. I do that personally. If I'm investing, I'm doing that. Trading may you just look at the movements, that's a different thing. Investing versus trading is a different debate. But if you're going to invest, then you will actually be doing these things. This is not just theoretical.
Absolutely. So, Weber, we have next question from Bahubali. So he wants your guidance on how to cover FR in last 1.5 day, or how much should we devote to our first paper, like when
Okay, since Bahubali, since FR is your first paper, I think you will have a lot of time before the first paper. You are not restricted to 1.5 days. I would suggest you should give at least 5 days for FR. 5 days for FR, and side by side on those 5 days, if you can give 1 or 2 hours for SFM, then that would be great. But I think you should give 5 days for FR. You can take up one day. So in FR, there are like 5 major topics. One is business combination consolidation, another is leases, then one more is financial instruments. And yeah, I think there is one. Yeah, I think these are the 3 major topics. So you can keep one topic for each day. You should not do all these 3 topics together in one day. It will get mixed up. So you can keep 3 topics a day, and all other small standards like PPE, intangibles, then contingent liabilities and prior period items and all those things, that you can do 4 5 standards a day along with the main standard which you're studying. So this way you can complete your FR comfortably in 4.5 to 5 days, along with doing 1 or 2 chapters of SFM side by side at night or at morning 1 or 2 hours. So that will help you save time for SFM paper in the 1.5 days, which you can give to audit.
Absolutely. And even I used to follow this strategy that the last revision I'm doing, let's say my revision 2 or revision 3 before my exams, for my first paper, I used to do it before that exam only. So that also helps. Like if you do revise other subjects and the first paper you revise as you are going to appear for it in, let's say, next 2 3 days. So I used to do like that. And as Vaibhav also said, you should give 4 5 days to your first paper.
Yeah, if your first paper only goes bad, then it's going to demotivate you. So studying 5 days, I think it will help to ensure that you don't do bad in your first paper.
Absolutely. So there is one more question from Samiksha for you, Weber. So which paper should be solved before exams for revision and writing practice?
Which papers means, do you mean which test series specifically, or you're asking which subject you should write and practice?
No, I mean, if was for example, if we have our exams coming up in 1 week or something like that, so whether we should do the revision test papers or we should do the past papers, on that basis, I was asking.
And you are at inter level, Samiksha?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
Okay.
for inter level.
So solving papers, see, it doesn't matter which paper you're solving, but when you're doing your last day revision, you should ensure that all the difficult questions from past paper, from mock test paper, from revision test paper, you are covering 1.5 days before the exam. But writing practice you can do of any paper. Which paper you're writing, that doesn't matter. But don't leave any paper and go. Don't be like, I didn't see this paper only. You have to ensure that you look at each paper during your studies. And last day revision pay, only the selected tough questions from that paper you have to revise.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Right. Also for inter level, especially, I say that guys, you have theory subjects like audit and law. Do at least last 3 attempts of RTP. That really helps at inter level. Last 3 attempts of RTP. If you're short of time, then RTP is your priority. If you have time, then go for MTPs and do the writing practice. But RTP is something you can definitely not afford to miss, even at final level, even at inter level. Right, Vaibhav?
So yeah, right. I would like to add that if possible, go for all the RTPs of the new syllabus, May 18 onwards. And for subjects like costing FM, if you can also go for the old syllabus RTP, then that would
Right.
be great because there is no difference between the syllabus. And for tax, don't go for old RTPs because there are amendments.
You might get confused. There's
Yes.
a risk. Okay, great. Samiksha, I hope this answers your question. Now we have a question from Darshini, and she's very interested. She's saying, being an all-India ranker, you might have got offers from various corporates. Share your experience about them, and why did you select EY? So, Vaibhav, would you like to
Okay.
say something about
So
this?
my being selected in EY was during my internship phase itself. I haven't changed my job yet. So I have been in EY since 3 years and 9 months now. 3 years of articleship and 9 months post articleship. So post my internship, so what happens is I was in R.A. Podar College at Mumbai, and my college had a really great placement cell. So the Big Fours used to come at my college for selecting candidates for articleship. So we had PwC come in, we had Deloitte come in, and yeah, I applied for PwC Deloitte from my college placement cell, and I applied at KPMG and EY through one of my friends from outside. And yeah, I got selected in Deloitte, in PwC, and in EY. And I didn't go ahead with the KPMG interview process because I had decided to take up EY. So once I decided EY, I intimated that I won't be joining Deloitte or PwC. So yeah, the interview process was basically first we had an MCQ, a CAT kind of test, CAT kind of MCQ test, aptitude test, and once that was done, we had an HR interview. Like the HR generally asks questions like, tell about your strengths, weaknesses, tell about yourself, are you willing to travel to outstation locations, and general question. And then we had the technical round where some technical questions on accounting standards, auditing standards, standard costing, cash flow statement. I was asked those questions. And once that was done, some of the Big Fours also have a partner round for an interview, but I didn't have one. At EY, we generally don't have that round. And then I got recruited at EY as an intern. And yeah, in Big Fours, one thing which I want to say is, if you're looking for a Big Four, you should apply before the results itself.
Yes.
At Big Fours, the interview process happens 1 month before the result date, expected result date. So you should start applying early. Many students came to me after the inter results of Jan 21 that they want to join EY or KPMG. Can you refer my CV? And I was like, the recruitment process is already completed, so I can't help you. You will have to come at the next round during the next attempt. So if you are really keen on joining a Big Four, ensure that you apply first.
That's correct.
Yeah,
So,
and about job opportunities post clearing CA final. So there's this ICAI campus placement which is available. So right now, because of COVID and also because November 20 placements just got over, for Jan 21 placements, there are not many companies coming up. There are not many vacancies. So that's a challenge in the job market. But maybe when you are in CA final, when you clear, things would be better. So ICAI's campus placement is quite good. But if you get a rank, especially if you get a rank, then there are several off-campus placements conducted by different placement agencies, and many good companies, the top companies come through them. So if you can get into those top companies in your desired role, then that would be an icing on the cake. They also pay well, and they also give good exposure. They give you exposure in different areas for 1.5 or 2 years, generally in a management trainee role or a finance leadership program, etc. So if you can get into that, then nothing like that.
I know about ITC and Mondelez, they have these kind of
Yeah,
training
yeah.
programs. And
Even HUL and Aditya Birla Group, they also offer
well,
this.
Aditya Birla, definitely.
Yeah. If you can get into those, then that's really great if you can get into that. But the interviews are quite rigorous. You can have interviews going up to 2 or 2.5 hours also, and they will grill you like anything. You have to be very thorough with your research, and please don't do a dummy articleship. Dummy articleship करने से you will get a rank. ऐसा there is nothing like that.
Even if you get a rank, you are not, you won't be able to crack interviews, and
Right.
even that rank would not serve any purpose.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, so that's great, Vaibhav. Now we have next question from Ritika. So for text paper, module questions are easy, but when I see exam questions, they are kind of difficult. What to do?
Okay, so see, the module questions are easy even at final level. I agree on this point. Questions in the exam are different from what is there in the module. So for that, you need to do the RTPs and MTPs. RTPs and MTP questions and past paper questions are almost at the same difficulty level as the actual exam paper. So you should focus on RTP, MTP and past papers. And one thing which I would like to tell in tax is that, see, now in the module, there could be 5 to 6 small questions. What happens in the exam? By combining these 4-5 adjustments, they make it into one question. Take one adjustment at a time. Think of each adjustment as a separate question. Anyway, Institute also does individual stepwise marking. If there are 5 adjustments and if you're getting 3 adjustments correct, you're going to get 6 out of 10 marks. It's not like if your one adjustment is wrong, you are directly going to get 0. It is not like that. So view each adjustment in the question as a separate question itself. In module, each adjustment, they make it as a separate illustration and put it. And in the final paper, they combine it and make it into one question. That's the only difference. So maybe what is happening now, you're seeing a big question and you're getting a bit panicked or frightened. Oh God, this is such a big question. There are so many things. How will I do this? Don't let that feeling come. Take it one at a time.
Absolutely. Great. So I hope, Ritika, this answers your questions. Okay, now next question from Rahul. He's asking, can you please help me how to deal with costing theory in interlevel?
Costing theory. So
Interlevel.
actually, I don't know how much theory is there in costing now at interlevel. At IPCC, we had costing theory in the material labor chapters, but we had a practice manual in old syllabus. I was in the old syllabus for IPCC. So since we had the practice manual, I ensured that I did all the question and answers from the practice manual. That's it. I didn't go for any additional material. But coming to inter, you don't have a practice manual as such. And yeah, I faced the same situation in SFM in CA final. That we had a lot of theory in the book and there was no practice manual. So what I did was I broke down the entire chapter into question answer format. Break the entire module, all the topics into question answer, and for each question, what answer you will write, plan that in advance. If it is given head point wise, then create a list of head points, just like you do it in ITSM and in audit. Break it into head points. And in costing, ensure that your head point matches with what is there in the module. There should be no difference between your head point and the module's head point. The internal content, it's okay even if you write a bit in your own words. Keywords you should maintain. Rest of the sentence you can frame on your own. That does not matter in costing and in FM, in the theory part. But your heading has to match. This is what I have observed.
Okay, great. I hope this answered your question, Rahul. Now, next question from Jatin. So, by the way, Vaibhav, can you please spare 10 more minutes? I know you have time only till 11:30, but if possible, we have just
okay. I can extend to 10 minutes.
2 questions more.
Yeah.
Okay.
So who is asking?
Great.
Jatin.
So Jatin is asking, he's a CA interest student and want to invest in stock market. Can you please guide him how to start?
Okay. So if you want to invest in stock markets, first, what I would suggest is you should get into the habit of reading annual reports. You should be able to read annual reports of companies. You should have interest in that. I know it is a very boring task to start with. Even मुझे भी अच्छा नहीं लगता था और annual reports read करना इतना बड़ा. It is 180-200 page annual report. You don't have to read everything, of course. Company secretary reports and that all things, you don't have to go into that much detail. But the director's report, the management discussion and analysis part, then the financial statements, you should read that. You should try to understand whether there is potential for growth in the industry. You should track the union budgets. Like, for example, if you're looking at a company in the pharma industry, then whether the union budget has come up with some deduction or some proposal which is beneficial for the pharma industry. So you should see, so basically when you want to invest in a company, you should look at the business environment. You study business environment in the foundation level in business and commercial knowledge subject. So here actually apply that. Look at the legal environment, whether there are a lot of legal restrictions on the business. Is there any legal risk that the business would have to shut down? Look at the government part, whether there are any penalties being levied on the company, whether the company is manufacturing a product for which the demand is going down. What is the economic situation? See, in COVID period, the demand for luxury products is going to go down, and for necessity products, it is going to remain inelastic. Elasticity of demand you are studying. So all these factors you have to consider while analyzing the industry. You study product life cycle. So you should be able to identify whether the product is in the growth stage, whether there is potential, or whether a new product is going to come up, whether a substitute is coming up which will replace. You should know what is the market share of the company, whether there are other companies which are giving tough competition, which company is having more demand in the market, which company is growing globally at an international level, what is an MNC. You should know these concepts. And then you can also see the financials and do a ratio analysis. You will be able to identify whether the company is in a good solvency position, whether it has taken on extremely high debt, whether there is a risk that the company will go insolvent or anything like that. You can see whether there are any cases of income tax pending, which could lead to huge liabilities. Look at the footnotes, the contingent liability part, the EPS, the market price. Look at the trend of the last 5 years or 10 years. What is the market price going? And then you can invest. I'm talking about the investing part, not the trading part. So if you're investing, you have to invest for long term, 3 years, 6 years, 10 years. If you have that investment horizon, then you can do this analysis and you can invest. And your decisions may also go wrong at the start. So don't start with a huge capital at the beginning. Otherwise, you can go for mutual funds.
Paper trading also, like you buy some stock on paper and then you see if your decision was right or wrong. You can go as per that also. Also,
you can do that if you have the interest. But what happens is, paper trading, even I had tried, but then I lost interest in it because nothing was at stake. So I used to hardly track it. When actually I put in some money, I got attached to it. I started looking at things in more detail and keeping a regular update and track. So when you have something at stake, you are going to value it more. So start with rupees 1,000. Don't start with something big. 1,000 or 2,000 rupees you can start, and gradually you can grow.
Absolutely. So that's great, Vaibhav. Now, next question is from Navin. He's asking about presenting in exams. Also, if you can share about, how to present in exams, what is to do in the first 15 minutes of reading paper and how to plan.
Yeah, that got left out, right? We didn't discuss it. So yeah, so first coming to the 15 minutes part. So first in the 15 minutes part, what I used to do, what worked for me, I will tell you. Question 1 is a compulsory question in all papers. So don't read that in the first 15 minutes. Because when you solve it, you eventually have to read it. So why waste the 15 minutes in reading it only? Question 2 to question 6, read the 5 questions and try to identify what you don't want to solve. Rather than trying to identify what you want to solve, try to identify what you don't want to or what you cannot solve, what you don't know. So identify that and eliminate that first. Once you have eliminated, you know that you have to solve the other 4 questions at any cost. So you can start reading it in detail. Once you have decided. When you are reading the questions in the first 15 minutes, don't go into details. Don't start doing any calculation on your calculator. See, what will be this figure? Let me start calculating this here only. What will be the process cost per unit? Don't start doing what will be the normal loss. Don't start computing that immediately. Just look at the question and just try to gauge whether you will be able to solve it or whether you will not be able to solve it. And if you find any tricky adjustment, you can just put a star mark with a pencil. Don't write anything with pen or a highlighter or anything in your question paper. I think that is prohibited by the institute. If you want to write something, you can write it very lightly with pencil. If institute decides to catch you for unfair means because you're writing something with a pen in your question paper, then you're done for. Your attempt is gone if that happens. So don't take that risk. And please don't write thank you, all the best, sorry, and all that in your answer sheet. Because I saw this times, there were some AIRs at CA final in Jan 21 whose papers got withheld
Right.
because of this.
Even I got to know that. Even I think they've written judging or something like that, and they took it as an indication of their religion and trying to
Yeah.
influence the papers.
Yeah.
Like it went to that extent.
Yeah, someone even wrote the roll number in their additional supplementary sheet. You should not write your roll number anywhere except that first OMR place where you're doing that circling thing. Nowhere you should write the roll number. See, in 12th standard exams and in 10th standard, that barcode thing happens. Even on the supplementary additional answer sheets, they put that barcode. So they ask you to write the seat number. So out of that habit, maybe you may end up writing the roll number here also. Avoid that. You should not write that. So coming to the first 15 minutes. So now what may happen is you are reading question 2 to question 6. You may come across a question. Looking at it, you may panic. Oh God, I don't know this. And that will influence your mind. You will get tensed, stressed, and baki ka remaining questions, even if you know it, you will end up not doing it well. You will end up making silly mistakes. So don't let that happen. In the 15 minutes, try to identify the questions which you know best and attempt them first. In the first 1.5 hours, your target should be reaching 50 marks. If you are attempting 50 and you are sure about what you're attempting, there's a high chances you will score 40 at least out of those 50. So once you have touched that 50 wala mark, after that, you will be a bit relieved. Now I'm going to pass at least. Once you are in that mode, now I'm going to pass. Now whatever more I score, that is a surplus. So then you will be in a more relaxed mindset. You will be able to remember more quickly that what you were studying, what you had studied, whether you had done this in the past, whether you remember this adjustment, have you seen it somewhere? You will be able to remember it better. And you will end up scoring at least step marks in those questions. And even if you're left with just 5 minutes and you're left with a big 16-mark question, solve at least 2 steps or 3 steps, whatever you can in that 5 minutes. You will get 5 marks or 6 marks for that. I'm talking about practical subjects especially. Even if you're left with only 5 minutes, don't be like, oh, only 5 minutes are left. I'm anyway not going to complete this question. So I will go and decorate the rest of the paper. Don't do that. Decoration doesn't fetch marks. And even beautiful handwriting doesn't fetch marks. Your handwriting should be legible. The keyword should be there. If possible, you can underline the keywords and the case law names, etc. But you don't have to have a very beautiful handwriting.
Okay, amazing, Vaibhav. I'm so grateful and thank you so much for answering each and
You're
every
most welcome.
question so patiently and giving us your valuable time. And I hope, guys, all your questions have been answered now. Still, if you have any question, you can write to me personally, okay? And I'll see if I can get an answer for you from Vaibhav, okay? And once again, Vaibhav, thank you very much for joining us today.
Most welcome. My pleasure. I hope all of them would have benefited. I hope you learned something.
Definitely, definitely. I can see this series of thank you messages coming now.
All the best whenever your attempt is May 21 or November 21. All the best, especially May 21 people. Don't think about postponement.
Yes.
Stay away from Twitter.
So I've already got this done in my score more. So I asked them to uninstall their shopping apps, their social media apps. So that little digital detox they've done. Also, I mean, you have been through the same phase, you know, where the exams got postponed again and again. I think you were due for May and
May 20.
period for January. So what was that period for you? You know, I really wanted to discuss on that because a lot of students are going through the same phase. How you manage your emotions at that point of time when the exams were getting postponed? There was so much uncertainty about exams.
So the first postponement for me from May to June 2020, that came in March. And when that postponement came, frankly speaking, I was a bit happy. Postpone ho gaya, now I will get some more time to solve 2 more papers in each subject. So I was a bit happy for the first postponement. Then coming to the second postponement, June to July, I didn't like that. I was frustrated. Like, how much more should I study? I'm already studying for 6 months. So when the postponement notification came, I took a break of 2-3 days. I did not study anything. I just watched some movies and read some novels or something. but I didn't. Of course, I couldn't go outside because of the situation. But I didn't study for 2 3 days at all. So what I feel is when you're frustrated or tired or tensed, you should not even try to study because it will be suboptimal. It won't be efficient. First, try to refresh yourself. Try to improve your mindset so that you can come back with 100% efficiency. Even if you study with 100% efficiency for 2 hours, that is that is better than studying for 10 hours with 50% efficiency.
Correct. Absolutely. Also, Vaibhav, like as you didn't have any AIR at IPCC level, unfortunately. So, were you expecting to get All India Rank 2 at final? What was your goal? What was your target?
So I would like to change a word in what you said. Not having a rank in IPCC was not unfortunate. It was a fortunate thing for me. A kind of wake up call. I have got a rank in 10th, 12th, university, everywhere. So not getting a rank in IPCC gave me a reality check. Like maybe I'm getting a bit too casual. I'm maybe getting a bit overconfident, and maybe the CA course requires something different from what I have been doing. So then I got a good base to introspect, to think that what I have to change, where I'm lacking. So I found out that my major lacking was that I didn't cover the entire syllabus. I went to selective study. So whatever part I studied, I ensured that I scored really well in that. So even if you look at my ITSM, I attempted only 66, but I scored 61. In law, I knew only 70, 75 marks of the paper, and rest I just wrote anything, what I felt in my mind, and I scored 67. So if you observe, then I focused on attempting less and attempting accurately. But coming to final, I targeted attempting more and also attempting accurately.
Okay, that's great. Fantastic.
Yeah. So that
Okay.
was one thing. And rank, answering your question, rank was not expected. See, the January 21 papers were comparatively much tougher than the November 20 papers also. And we all had the feeling that ICAI badla le raha hai, paper late le raha hai, so ICAI is taking revenge for that. So we all had that feeling, and almost each paper had some of the other 25 to 30 marks very tricky or difficult it was, except for maybe law. Law was a bit easy except the MCQ part, and even IDT. The MCQ part was tough, rest was quite manageable. So yeah, I didn't expect a rank, but I lost sight of the fact that if paper was difficult for me, then it was difficult for everyone. So everyone's performance would be a bit lower than what they had expected.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, now I feel that you should be happy if a paper is tough. Because
Exactly.
if your first paper is tough, accounting is tough at inter, then you know that the other 3 papers in group 1 are not going to be that tough.
Also, if the paper is difficult, then your chances of clearing that exam
Yeah.
increases.
Yeah. The best example is my accounting, the FR paper at CA final. The paper was really, really tough. And I was like almost thinking, I'm going to get 38, 39 maybe if the paper is checked very tough. And I got 68. So when the paper is tough, the checking is lenient.
And the paper,
And when the paper is easy,
yes,
you might be expecting, Array, this paper went so well, I'm easily going to cross 90. You will think, and you will end up with something around 65.
it happened with me at my CA final level. This SFM paper was super easy, and SFM was my strength, my favorite subject. So it was like I'm going to cross 90 in any case, and I got only 66, the only
Yeah,
exemption which I.
yeah, this happens.
And law paper was like out of the box. Like I still don't know which chapters those questions came from, but yeah, I managed to score more than 50. So there are papers like this. So, but what happens? Students, they get so disheartened, they lose all their hopes of passing that examination, and they don't even appear for further papers. So guys, no
Yeah,
matter what, you have to give all the papers.
yeah. Appearing the paper should never be a question. You have to appear it always. If you don't clear it, then that's a next thing we can think. Maybe you will get an exemption in some other paper which you appeared.
Yes, definitely. So, guys, give all your examination, okay, and all the very best to you. And once again, thank you so much, Vaibhav. And
Thank
here,
you, Ayushi. Thank you all.
yes, and we are hoping to see you again at EPS community. And it was such a pleasure to have this session from you. Okay, so So guys, let's close the session. If you have any of the question, please reach out to me in the EPS community group, or you can message me personally. And definitely we'll try to give a solution and answer to your query. Okay. So,
Yeah, sure.
okay guys,
Sure.
take care. Have a
Okay,
good
take
day.
care. Have a good day. All the best.